Welcome to Straight Painting. I'm your host, Zach, and on this episode, we're going to take a look at the work of Arthur Lismer and then adapt one of his pieces for a full art island. Arthur Lismer was one of the 7 charter members of the Group of 7, along with Lauren Harris, whom we covered last time on Straight Painting. Lismer was born in 1885 in Sheffield, England, which is also the birthplace of fellow group member Frederick Varley. You can learn more about Arthur and his work at the Canadian Group of 7 website, the McMichael Canadian Art Collection website, and the Alan Klinkoff Gallery website, which includes articles detailing his relationship with the gallery owners, as well as his life after the Group of 7. I'll include links in the description box below if you wish to learn more. Arthur immigrated to Canada in 1911 after training in Antwerp and fell in love with the Canadian landscape of rocks, pines, and expansive waters and sky. His style was influenced by the post-impressionists, and he adapted it into an angular style that expressed the Canadian terrain. In Isles of Spruce, we find a scene depicting an island of trees, front and center in the frame. Our attention is drawn to the island by the rounded lines of the background hills that intersect with the vertical lines of the spruce, which lead us down to the yellow tree highlighted on the island. The stronger hues found on the island, as well as the contrast between the bright yellow and the dark green of the trees, keeps us locked into the center of the picture. One feature of the Group of Seven's body of work is the similarity of composition in their pieces. The artists tended to portray similar scenes in similar ways, but with their own expression of style, sort of like an early Draw This in Your Style challenge. Here we can compare Isles of Spruce with Northern Painting 25 by Lauren Harris. Both scenes feature islands of trees that dominate the center foreground of the pictures, but each has its own identity. Lismer's picture has a more realistic approach to it, both in terms of hue and in his portrayal of the shapes of the trees. Harris's picture is more loose and abstract, using brighter colors and more roundness to give each tree its own character and identity in the piece. And in terms of how I tend to view their work mentally, I always think of Harris having these bright colors and rounded shapes, while with Lismer's work, what always stands out to me is how he depicts his rocks. In Cathedral Mounted, painted on a trip to Alberta, Arthur presents us with a mountain, which has a lot more realistic detail in it than the mountains of Lauren Harris. Like Harris's work, though, it shares the use of lightning of values to help lead us up the mountain. In Cathedral Mountain, Lismer is again presenting to us a more realistic mountain than Harris would. It has all of these pleasing piles of rocks that slowly lead our eye up to the peak of the mountain. He uses more angles in his lines to create each layer of rocks, and it produces a feeling of having to fight up the side of the mountain to reach the top. Lismer's most well-known work to me are his depictions of the big rock on Upper Mazenod Lake in Bon Echo Provincial Park, a place that he depicted many times and from many different views. Bon Echo was given its English name by Weston Price because of the way that the rock bounced sound across the lake. In this view of the big rock, Lismer is showing us part of the rock face from the north, and we are viewing south towards the Narrows. He uses these long angular strokes with occasional use of smaller strokes of darker values to show us the verticality of the rock wall and to show us its intimidating character. I took some time a couple of weeks ago to drive up to Cloyne and visit the park to see the big rock for myself. In person, it was far redder than Lismer depicted in his paintings, though that could also be due to the fact that it was more overcast on the day that I visited. Mazenod Lake gets its name from Mazenod Bekinigan Zaga Igen in Algonquian, which means painted image lake, with the big rock having over 260 red ochre pictographs depicting many cultural images, including Nanabuju or Nanabush, an anthropomorphic androgynous trickster figure used to pass down information and general life lessons in storytelling traditions. This view, looking north from the Narrows to Upper Mazenod Lake, gives you an idea of the view that Lismer used in his more famous depiction of the rock, the big rock, Bon Echo. And here we have his famous painting of the rock wall. What we see is the rock looming up above us, casting us in shadow, with a few wisps of cloud rolling by overhead. The lines used in the image direct our attention to the rock wall, specifically the middle section, which juts up and out of the frame. We get a good sense of the cragginess of the wall and its verticality, as well as its coloration, using hues that range from red to purple to heighten the many faces of the wall. So in painting this image, I'll need to focus on keeping that verticality, as well as making strong hue and value choices to show the many different sides of the wall. And how did we do? All right, we've now got a completed card here. So let's do a quick review of it before we end up putting it into the deck and playing against some friends with it. First off, just taking a look back at our two focal points of the project itself, I think we've achieved both of those. The first one was to keep the verticality of the rock wall, which, given that we were using Arthur Lismer's composition itself, we did retain the lines, the strong lines that lead us to view this card both vertically and push us in from the edge to center on the middle section of the rock wall itself. And secondly, we definitely created some strong value choices with hues ranging from reds to purple. Now, my palette ended up being a little bit more Matisse than it did matching. However, I'm happy with how this card turned out. I think we got some good variation in the sky and the water here, as well as we did get those reds and the purples that we wanted to see from this project onto the card. And all of that combines to still focus our attention right here on the vertical wall itself. One slight change that I did make to Lismer's composition is while his is more square in nature, mine is more vertical, and I did get to add in some more clouds at the top, as well as letting the top part of the rock stay within the frame. So overall, I'm very happy with this card, and I'm ready to put a thin layer of top coat over top of it to help protect the paint from any damage from shuffling and just wear and tear. So, my final takeaway for you, as always, is to remember that the effort you put in is more important than the perfection you achieve. Which is to say that the more you try, the better you'll get. You just have to try. I want to thank you for joining me for this week's episode. I've had a lot of fun rediscovering the work of Arthur Lismer, as well as the Group of Seven in general. And I also had a lot of fun mixing up that bolder palette that I ended up using on the card. I think it'll be nice to draw it in my deck when I'm playing against friends and have that bold pop of color in my hand. I hope that you have taken away something from this process as well, and I hope that you go on to either study more of the work of Arthur Lismer, or the Group of Seven, or any of the artists that I've covered so far in this series. There's a lot of great people out there making a lot of great work, and you never know what you can learn from studying the work of other people, especially if they have a style that you don't work in yourself. I'll see you all in 2 weeks' time with a new project, and until then, peace.